Hi, this is Jao Palasher, your next presenter for today.
My topic is all about the causes, constraints, and opportunities of poverty in the Philippines. Poverty and inequality have been recurrent challenges in the Philippines and have again come to the fore in the wake of current global financial crisis and rising food, fuel, and commodity prices experienced in 2008. The proportion of households living below the official poverty line has declined very slow and unevenly in the past 4 decades, and poverty reduction have been much slower than the neighboring countries such as the People's Republic of China, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The growth of the economy has been characterized by boom and bust cycles, and the current episodes of moderate economic expansions have had limited impact on poverty reduction. The current profile of poverty in the country, incidence among the household increased from 24.4% in 2003 to 26.9% in 2006, and the number of families increases from 4 million to 4.7 million. The head count index increases from 30% to 32.9%, and the number of poor people increases from 23.8 to 27.6 million. Mindanao has the highest poverty incidence of 38.8%, but Luzon has the highest numbers of poor family with almost 2 million families, over 42.4% of the total growth. The Philippines midterm progress reported on the MDGs shows that the following gains have been made. Number 1, decrease in proportion of people living in extreme poverty. 2, visible improvements in household and population poverty indicates. 3, maintain net enrollment by both elementary and secondary. 4, reduction infant death. 5, prevalence of HIV and AIDS. 6, improve in environmental protection. And lastly, active participation in the World Trade Organization. The main characteristics of the poor include the following. Number 1, the majority live in rural areas and work in agricultural sectors, mostly as farmers and fishers. 2, in the urban areas such as Metro Manila, they are found in slums and in the informal sectors. 3, they have large families, 6 members or more. 4, in 2/3 of poor families, the head of the household has only elementary education or below. 5, they have no or few assets and minimal access to credit. 6, a major income source of the poor is from enterprise income such as informal sector activities. And lastly, a significant segment of the poor households are chronically poor.
These are the causes of poverty in the country. Number 1, low moderate economic growth for past 40 years. 2, low growth elasticity of poverty reduction. 3, weakness in employment generation and the quality of job generated. 4, failure to fully develop the agricultural sector. 5, high inflation during crisis period. 6, high levels of population growth. 7, high and persistent levels of inequality, incomes and assets, which damped the positive impact of economic expansion and etc. 8, recurrent shock and exposure to risks such as economic crisis, conflict, natural disasters, and pandemics. How poverty impact the economic growth? According to Bachi 2008, the difficulties of the Philippines to transition to a higher and sustained level of growth have been explained to be due to a sustained decline in domestic investment. According to ALBA 2007, it is the weakness in institution and social infrastructure. According to Preachy 2003, it is the institutional uncertainty. And according to Nelson 2007, it is the history and culture that have been implanted growth. However, it is also possible that poverty itself is constraining economic expansion. The channel through which poverty may impact economic growth include the following. First is investment capacity constraints. Lack of access to credit aggravated by underdevelopment of financial markets. Second is human capital constraints. It is the lack of education, healthcare, and nutrition. Third is regular doses of risks and shocks causing poverty traps. And lastly, a conflict and disorder resulting from inequality which hamper investment and destroy social capital. Key findings. Number 1. Economic did not translate into poverty reduction in recent years. While the country has experienced moderate economic growth in the recent years, poverty reduction has been slow. Inequality has remained high, which mitigates the positive impact of growth on poverty reduction. Finding a solution to poverty is thus of public interest. Benefits will occur not only to the poor, but also to the society as a whole. The next one is poverty levels vary greatly by region. Poverty incidence has been persistently high in some regions, such as autonomous regions in Muslim Mindanao, Caraga, Region 4B, 5, and 6. Regions with the most numbers of poor peoples are Region 4A, 5, 6, and 7. The third one is poverty remains a mainly rural phenomenon through urban poverty on the rise. The majority of poor are still found in the rural areas and in the agricultural sectors, primarily as farmers and fishers. However, this is an increasing numbers of poor households in urban areas typically found in the informal sectors. Number 4, poverty levels are strongly linked to educational attainment. 2/3 of the poor households are headed by people with an only elementary school education or below. Access to quality education is identified as the key pathways out of poverty. Number 5, the poor have large families with 6 or more members. Population management will be critical for an effective poverty reduction strategy. Number 6, many Filipino households remains vulnerable to shocks and risks. This is highlighted by the escalating conflict in Mindanao and the current global financial crisis. An effective poverty strategy must incorporate social protection. 7 is a governance and institution constraints remain. Measures to address such constraints must be an important focus in formulating a revised government strategies for poverty reduction. Number 8, a local government capacity for implementing poverty program is weak. The effective delivery of basic social service and poverty-related programs at the local levels will improve the poverty reduction programs. Number 9, deficient targeting in poverty program. This is related to unreliable, inaccurate, and untimely poverty information, especially at a local levels, and to governance challenges in program design and implementation. 10. There are serious resource gaps for poverty reduction activities and attainment of the MDGs by 2050. Resource mobilization and protection of budgets for social sectors and poverty reduction program is needed. 11. Multidimensional responses to poverty reduction is needed. The poverty problem is multidimensional and thus the response should involve multiple agencies, sectors, and stakeholders. Convergence has been the right approach and should be scaled up and practiced more extensively. And lastly, number 12, further research on chronic poverty reduction is needed. There are very few micro studies on chronic poverty and how the poor escape poverty trap. This type of research is important for formulating more effective policies and programs. How to overcome the poverty in the Philippines? The Philippines can lower the rate of poverty if the government were to invest in advanced technology training and encourage business to create higher value employments and make high value products. This will give more spending power to the people. That in turn spurs greater economic growth. And that's the end of my report. Thank you so much for listening.